In today's Locked On Pelicans, I'm going to tell you the biggest thing holding New Orleans back right now, and it's not injuries, coaching, or anything like that. Plus, I'm going to tell you how it can make life easier in tonight's game against the Golden State Warriors. It's a Tuesday episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here's y'all on a game day for your New Orleans Pelicans as they take on the Golden State Warriors tonight. A back-to-back. We're going to be up late on a Tuesday and Wednesday night. And you know what? I love it because basketball is fun. And this team is 2-1 and has a lot of room to grow. And I'm going to tell you where they need to get two things down. We're going to talk about the most important thing they can do. And frankly, it's play like you give a damn. Play with a sense of urgency. And then defense is going to be, in my opinion, more important than offense. I'll explain in the second segment of today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast coming to you like nobody else does. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And now your favorite podcast has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Pelicans daily newsletter. One-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up now for free at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pelicans newsletter. So let's get into this. The Pelicans are 2-1, but it doesn't feel like a good 2-1. It could easily be 1-2. Honestly, it could probably be 0-3. Bad first halves against the Chicago Bulls, and then in that second game, bad first half against the Portland Trail Blazers before they smoked them in the second quarter, and the bad four quarters in the third game here. Things don't feel particularly great. And you can point to the offense. You can point to the defense. If there were special teams, you would point to that too here if we were the Saints. You could point to coaching. Look, you can point to injuries. No Trey Murphy, no DeJounte Murray is really going to hurt them and is hurting them right now. All of those things are totally true. But the biggest thing to me, particularly in these games against Portland, at least the first half in that first game against Portland and the whole game in the second game against Portland, that they are lacking is they don't look like they care right now. And before you go, well, that's coaching. No, I disagree with that. They act like they don't care. They act like they were they were going to play some bad teams and could sleepwalk through. And this is something that goes back to multiple seasons now with this New Orleans Pelicans team. You know, a second half double-digit comeback against the Portland Trail Blazers is nice, but it's Portland. Like you shouldn't be in that position in the first place. And it's an 82-game season. These games happen to basically everyone other than the Boston Celtics. But to come out basically 3 games in a row and lack a sense of urgency, lacking like you act like you care, that doesn't feel good. And I think that then makes it feel like the sky is falling here. Now, maybe some of that is injuries. I do think the Murray injury is pretty significant for this team, obviously. But look, you can try hard and you can act like you care and you can play with a sense of urgency, a sense of force. If I were one of the coaches, that's what they'd say. A sense of speed if I were one of the coaches, and still lose. And they're not particularly doing that. CJ McCollum said it well after the game on Sunday. We didn't deserve to win. Well, no, you lost by 25. Of course you didn't deserve to win. But the larger point is they would never win against any team if they played like that. And that's really part of the problem. To me, it's not offense. It's not defense. It's not scheme. It's not anything like that. Act like you care. Act like you have pride on the line when you go out and play. And this is that killer instinct mentality. Something that the team, has been missing. And maybe that's why they brought in DeJounte Murray, to be a leader, to motivate these guys in a sense. and lead by example, but also be a vocal leader. Brandon Ingram is not a vocal leader. Zion Williamson is not a vocal leader. And I'm not sure that either is a lead by example kind of guy. I really thought the only guy that looked like he cared the other night on Sunday was CJ McCollum. You need the starters to win their minutes. They're not doing it yet. And it just looks like they're playing very lackadaisical. There were some real bad sloppy turnovers for them in that game. You're just gifting points to the opponent there. And for a team that might struggle in the half court till they get Trey Murphy and Murray back, you need to not just gift easy points to your opponent. More on that because it impacts the defense in the next segment here. Be the aggressor. Look at that game against Portland. Portland came out and was like ready to just punch New Orleans in the face. And they were just on the back foot the whole game. In this game tonight against the Golden State Warriors, come out and punch them in the face and act like that's what you're trying to do. And New Orleans hasn't done a good job of that. And you might say, well, that's on coaching to motivate the players. It is and it isn't. These guys are all, they're not children. These aren't your kids that are 10 and you need to motivate them or anything like that. Brandon Ingram's been in the league for 8 years. Zion Williamson, this is his 5th year in the league. These guys should be ready to go. They should be ready to play. And this team still just doesn't feel like it. I don't know if that's on the coaches. Maybe that's just who these players are. And I think at this point we have enough evidence to kind of understand that both from Zion and Ingram, that if you're going to build around them going forward, or one of them going forward, whoever that might be, that's got to be taken into account because we're seeing it again and again and again. This team starts to just stand around. They're on the back foot. Adversity hits, and they revert to, honestly, probably what's comfortable. Brandon Ingram went from taking 9 threes in a game to just 3, 4, whatever it was against Portland. That's not going to get it done. You know what you're supposed to do. You know what you're being asked to do by the coaches. Why aren't they doing it? That's just on the players. The coaches can't make them shoot threes. You can say, well, you got to pull them and play other people. If you're already struggling at the center position, Karlo Makovic probably isn't the answer right now. If you're struggling with guards to go play hard, no, it's probably not Antonio Reeves. You still at least could maybe win the game. You saw it in the second half against Portland by talent. If your talent isn't living up to it or being who they should be, you're probably not going to win the game by playing worse talent. And maybe you send a message by doing that, but there's no guarantee that that will actually wake these guys up because look, this is what year now that we've seen it. If they just wake up and play hard. They don't even have to play the proper scheme or anything like that. Play harder. This team can win games and they can kind of right the ship. Again, they're 2-1. The sky isn't falling here. I've seen people saying like trade every, but no, you don't need to do that. Maybe also just wait till they get healthy and things will turn around. But they've got to come out in this game and look like they want to be there, look like they want to win this game, and look like they're going to be hurt if they lose, as opposed to what we saw. That alone will get them pretty far. And that alone will really help them on the defensive side of the ball. It was a lot of just matador defense I saw. You just let the guys run by you the other night. If they fix the defense, that's bigger to me than the offensive side of the ball. If they fix the defense, I'm going to feel much better about this team. And I'll tell you how that then impacts the offense. That's going to come up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Game Time. This is my go-to ticket app. It's the only app I use for any tickets anymore, and that's Game Time. And I love it because of all the features. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. So Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. There's going to be no ticket buying paralysis or anything like that. The curated deals make it easier to find the best prices on great seats. And if you're going to a venue you've never been, maybe it's not for a sporting event, but comedy, theater, whatever it might be, a concert, you get to see the view from your seat before you buy, a panoramic view. And with the Game Time guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. So now is always the best time to buy on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And now for your second listen, Locked On NBA. We're recapping every game every single night. I'm on there on Thursdays now. We moved days to make it a little bit easier. It's been a lot of fun. We got a slightly new format called Game Night. Every game, every night. You didn't watch all the games? We got you covered. We'll tell you what you need to know to have those smart conversations with your friends. You can do that over the Locked On NBA podcast. And don't forget the Locked On Pelicans newsletter over at LockedOnDaily.com. A little bit of Locked On Pelicans right to your inbox every single day. So I want to switch gears. I think the biggest thing here is the Pelicans just need to act like you give a damn. Act like you care. Be the aggressor. That will get you far. That works on defense. That's really important on defense. The team right now, the biggest concern to me for New Orleans is not the offense at all. It's their defense. And it, my opinion, has looked bad, particularly these past two games. As I said in yesterday's show for the Everydayers, the Pelicans are giving up the sixth most points in the paint. That's not something they did last year. For a team that doesn't have like normal rim protection, their whole point is to keep you out of the paint. Allowing points in the paint is about the worst thing a defense can do. It gets your defense into rotations. Smart teams will move the ball around and they'll eventually find an open shooter and then it's lights out. Look at Jeremy Grant. Now you're going to go up against a Golden State Warriors team that is missing Steph Curry. We'll talk about that next. But that takes the second most amount of threes per game at 47. You want to be in long rotations against a team that is willing to pass the ball and then bomb from deep? I don't. They're first in assists for a reason. This is what they do. The Pelicans have to be better defensively and contain dribble actions. Don't let guys just drive right into the paint. It's line drives. A little bit of pick and roll in there too, but really just guys beating their man. Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, Javonte Green are probably the three best defenders they have right now, but everyone needs to be a part of this. You have to stop those drives into the paint. When the team is rotating, it means you're going to have small guys matched up on big guys, and that's going to give a defense or an offensive rebounding advantage, so a defensive rebounding disadvantage for the New Orleans Pelicans. That's a big part of why you're seeing them struggle there. And because they're just making dumb plays. That ties into the first one. Don't make dumb plays. Act like you care. So defensively, they will, if they improve on that side of the ball, and they have the 11th best defense now somehow, too small of a sample size to really jump into it. That will make a big difference for what they want to do and how they can really try and become like a better team, and it will fix a whole lot of things if that's the case. And because they do that, if they do that well, they're going to be significantly better when it comes to offense too. If you're a longtime listener or an everydayer and you've been listening at least for the past couple of years now, this is something I've said. Offense and defense are very connected. To me, it's not really separate like it is in the NFL, right? To me, it's closer to soccer. You're doing both. And if you have a bad little spell on offense, it can lead to transition opportunities, a counterattack, to use soccer terms, and lead to easy chances to score. And you're seeing that happen against New Orleans right now. Look at their offense. And so what I mean by this is when they're interconnected is New Orleans, particularly in that first game against the Chicago Bulls, did a really good job of forcing steals, forcing turnovers, and then getting out and running. They had 29 points in the fast break. They had 30 points off turnovers compared to the Chicago Bulls. That's really good. That's really important, in my opinion, and exactly what this team needs to be doing. They need to get out and run. In the half court, New Orleans is fine. They're not great. They're not horrible. Let me pull up their half court numbers here and where they rank. I think they were actually in the lower third. They're 22nd. So bottom third of the league, but not at like the way bottom there. But 22 out of 30 is where they rank in half court at 89.2 points per play in the half court. not factoring in garbage time. Keep that 89.2 number in the back of your mind. When they get out and run, in terms of transition, it's significantly better. According to Cleaning the Glass, they're adding about 1.5 points to that total in just transition alone. When it comes to steals, they're adding about, let me pull the numbers up again, 2.6 points per 100 possessions, but that's fourth best in the league. And they're also, there's the actual points per play. That's how we do it. It's 139.3 off of steals. There you go. That's the number I was looking for. I had to go and find it. New Orleans in transition this year, you can do it off steals or live rebounds, is 113.2 is their offensive rating. It was 89 point something in the half court. There's a significant difference there. Good defense is going to lead to really easy offense for this team. Really easy offense. Off of steals, they have an offensive rating of 139.3. I like those numbers. Off of live rebounds, it's only 79.2. The key to the Pelicans on the defensive side of the ball is not as much defensive rebounding, but it is that too. It's also forcing a steal. That's the bigger thing. Force the steal. Now, losing Murray is going to hurt you there. Herb hasn't been Herb Jones just yet outside of that first game. And it's early in the season. There's time to shake all of this. But forcing steals is how this team is going to make their money on the defensive side of the ball. So not only that, right? You force a steal. Guess what you don't have to worry about? Trying to secure a defensive rebound. And the Pelicans right now are struggling with that. Part of that, a lot of that is just due to their own fault and not just being small. They're 25th when it comes to defensive rebounding percentage at under 70%, 69.2. Force steals, get out and run. So you end that opponent's possession and you score easy points for yourself. And then do you know what you can do? Well, one, you avoid half-court offense, so you're just scoring at a higher rate. And then your defense gets back, gets set while your opponent inbounds the ball. Scoring, so we talk about good defense leading to really easy transition opportunities. Good defense, or good offense, efficient offense, I should say, can also lead to good defense. It's tough to defend in transition. Just look at those numbers. It's really hard to defend in transition. You know when you don't have to defend in transition? When the opponent is inbounding the ball. When they have to get the ball, get it, show it to the ref or whatever, get the ball back, and then just inbound it to their guy, and then they got to go up the court. Your defense can get back, get set, and do what they need to do. There's a lot of action defensively that you might do before the team gets into the half court. You might do something called pre-switching. We talk about switching a lot on the perimeter where it's all of a sudden, a pick and roll with a guard and a center, and then the guard switches onto the center, the Pelicans center switches onto the guard, and that is supposed to prevent them from getting into the paint. But sometimes you'll see them pre-switch. So the man with the ball, the point guard, let's say, already has the center on him. And then the center has a guard on him, and they come and set a screen. And now when you switch, it's guard on guard, center on center. Pre-switching is something you can really only do when your team's back and set and can communicate, not when you're running in transition, just trying to slow down an opponent. So to me, good defense is going to fix almost everything for New Orleans. You can avoid that bad half-court offense where we're screaming, take threes or generate threes. Why is no one moving? Why aren't they passing the ball? Why are they just going ISO and all of that stuff? You eliminate that. You also eliminate the need for a defensive rebound too. And then you can get your defense back and set and force another steal. We saw them do this repeatedly last year. They need to force those steals. They need to generate those turnovers to get out in transition and run. And they did not do that in those two games against Portland. When you're not forcing a steal, when a guy's just driving right by you and going straight to the cup, you're not forcing a steal. You can chain that dribble penetration, you slow those guards down or whoever it is, and you force them to do other things. Then all of a sudden, it can be an entirely different thing. You can blitz them and send two and try and get the ball. All of that. That's what this team needs to do more of. To me, it's not an offensive issue. It's a defensive issue. Now, it's also on the offense too, right? These are all interconnected. If your offense is turning the ball over, taking bad shots, and you're missing everything, then all of a sudden, teams are going to try and run a little bit against you. The Pelicans are 19th right now in field goal percentage. They're not doing a good job. They're 17th in three-point percentage. They need to do a much better job of making some shots because then your defense can also get back and get set. But that's alleviated by running in transition with those easy buckets. It's all tied together. It's not one or the other. It's all tied together, but I do see more of an issue on the defensive side of the ball than I do the offensive one, because that dribble penetration, the points in the paint for a team that cannot give that up, you're asking a lot of Yves Missi if it's going to be, well, you got to block everything now. That's not going to be great. So they need to figure out the defensive side of the ball. A lot of that comes from just acting like you care. Try harder. Don't let guys just blow by you. Those sorts of things. Be aggressive there. Force those steals. Everything will get right for New Orleans. These are all fixable issues that we're seeing right now. And if they get the defense, the offense will be fine enough until you get DeJounte Murray and Trey Murphy back and can kind of get to your full strength rotation, which, yeah, would be a very good thing too. So coming up next tonight against the Golden State Warriors, the Pelicans can catch a break, but they got to avoid a trap with that. I'll tell you what that is coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Join over 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And don't forget the daily free Locked On Pelicans newsletter delivered right to your inbox. It also has like really great insight. We've hired a couple of really good writers to write a league-wide article every single day in there. And you've got fantasy basketball advice and then links to some of the best Pelicans content out there, by the way. It's been really cool to see these be into effect. So go get the free Locked On Pelicans newsletter over at lockedondaily.com. And now for your second listen, Locked On Saints, Ross Jackson, making sense of everything black and gold. Oh boy. I'm on the fire Dennis Allen train. I understand. So I hope, look, he's going to shoot you straight on what they're going to do, why they would do it, and what makes sense for New Orleans, and if they can get back on track when it comes to all of that. Locked On Saints, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That should be your second listen today. So good news for the New Orleans Pelicans, and not something that we want to see. We don't like injuries here, but Steph Curry injured his ankle, going to be out for both of these games. So New Orleans gets a little bit of a break here, in my opinion, by not having to face Steph Curry. That's obviously really important. A left peroneal strain going to be reevaluated Friday. So not playing in either of these two games. So the Pelicans are catching a break. There's a real chance to go 2-0 here. But not if they think they're going to sleepwalk through it. We just went over why in the first segment here. You can't think you're be better and beat them, because they will beat you. Here's the thing that scares me about the Golden State Warriors, and it's that number that I told you earlier, 47. That's how many three-point attempts they're taking per game. That's second most in the league. Now, Steph Curry leads them at 9 per game. He's, it's not even a question. He's the best shooter in NBA history. Losing him is going to hurt, right? Say you take those 9 away and it drops down to 39. It's better. It's still going to smoke what New Orleans is going to do. The Pelicans took 29 threes in that second game against the Portland Trailblazers. The math just won't math here in the Pelicans' favor. You're going to be trading 2s for 3s, you lose. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Buddy Hield, I'm pretty familiar with him, 8.3 threes per game. He'll probably take more. Andrew Wiggins, he's shooting it at 52% so far this year. Andrew Wiggins, 6.3 attempts per game. He's shooting it at 58%. He'll probably take more. Moses Moody, 40% on 5 attempts per game. You'll probably see him take some more. The Pelicans are going to absolutely need to keep up with shooting threes. This is one of those things where you just need to know what you've got to do and then go and do it, and it's as simple as that. They need to stick to the game plan, listen to what the coaches are saying, and frickin' do it. Just because Steph Curry isn't in there, the three-point shot is the great equalizer. Buddy Hield could easily come in and score 40 points on like three-point shooting alone, basically. You're going to need to not fall into these traps of, well, it'll be easy. They come out slow. The Warriors hit a bunch of threes because they're going to take threes. It's what they do no matter who's in the lineup or not. Contrast that to the Pelicans, and you will lose. It's really as simple as that. They need to make sure they are doing all of the things that they are supposed to be doing. And they've got to try. Now, this team can't beat you many other ways. They're going to move the ball and try and find threes. If you defend at a high level, you can limit that, contest those threes, because New Orleans has done a very good job of that over the past couple of seasons, even if they're struggling a little bit right now. So they can definitely do a really good job defending here and win both of these games. Steph Curry is the most dangerous Warrior, but now you don't need to send two at him. Be smart. Don't get blown by. Don't get into long rotations on the defensive side of the ball, and this team can and should and will win this game. But don't think it's going to be easy because of no Steph. This is how teams surprise New Orleans. And in a Western Conference, when you've got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and New Orleans in this one is definitely going to be the team that needs to win, you've got to make it work. Really as simple as that. I'm going to pull up the line here because I'm kind of curious to see. I wouldn't be shocked if the Warriors are favored, but that is one of those situations where, all right, I can't find it. Hold on. Pelicans, Warriors, spread. Let's see. We're doing this in real time here. There they are, favored by 1.5 points per FanDuel. There we go. You're favored. You got to win, even on the road. As simple as that, right? Just because there's no Steph Curry doesn't mean they're not scary. They have some talented players there that are going to take threes. Great equalizer. It's really as simple as that. And it ties to everything else that we've talked about. Generate steals, bury this team early, and even if your three-point shot isn't falling and you're not taking as many as them, if you're getting the steals, you're getting those high transition buckets, or high efficiency buckets, you'll be fine. They should win. It's really as simple. The only way they're going to need to do it is if they go out and then they play hard and don't just sleepwalk through this game, because that is how you definitely won't do it. Otherwise, you won't win. Simple as that. Also, I just saw Paolo Banchero had 37 points at halftime. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. Anyway, I'm going to go turn that game on. We're going to wrap up Locked On Pelicans here. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I appreciate y'all listening. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Don't forget the Locked On Pelicans daily newsletter over at LockedOnDaily.com. We'll be back tomorrow to recap what's hopefully a win. If not, we'll break down the reasons why not, and we'll get you set for the back-to-back here, first one of the season. We're going to be up late here in New Orleans watching the West Coast games. I'm looking forward to it. You know, we'll have shows every day this week, and I'll see y'all next time.